everybody. It's another night. Standard time. How are you doing, Greg?
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Glad to be here. Another wonderful Friday night.
Which our Friday nights are slimming down to nothing now. It's
Yep.
this Friday and next Friday, and that's it.
Yeah.
We're going to Monday nights, like Monday Night Raw wrestling.
Yeah.
Are you into wrestling?
I used to certainly love wrestling for sure.
I used to be the WWF, or WWE trivia champion queen at the Gino Pub in Huntington, West Virginia.
That's impressive.
I've won shirts. I've won belts. I have won free tickets. And it got to the point when they had a pay-per-view, I would come in and everybody would go, "Oh, she's here."
We're gonna lose.
Yeah. So that was back in the day. But we have several people over here. I know I don't have my Kentucky Derby hat. I meant to make one today. Kentucky Derby's this weekend. You know.
Darn it! I got to pick my horse.
I always go with a long shot.
I always go with a long shot. I like to do for crying out loud, a trifecta, and I like to take the two favorites and pair them with the long shots in hopes that, like last year, the long shot came in and won, and it was like $10,000 in the trifecta.
I don't even remember. COVID-19 has just like totally whacked everything off last year and this year. And I should have had my hat, and I was busy with work today. I couldn't get to it, but maybe I'll go tomorrow and make me something, and maybe do a special live Sunday evening or something and just see what happens. But thank you everybody for tuning in tonight. Please share this video. It helps us, our show. It helps our network. And obviously it's going to help our guest. And that's what I wanted to talk about now. I want to introduce our guest tonight because our hour goes by so fast. And I like to bring him in because he has so many things going on. And our guest tonight, he's been on the show before. I think it's been about a year. Before. And he's a dear friend. He's in West Virginia, y'all. So Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia, anybody from there, they're dear friends to me. But we're going to bring Dave Spinks on right now. He has been on every every show possibly, because it seems like there for a while, anytime I would turn a show on, I would see Dave Spinks on there. But he's written tons of books. He actually owns a haunted location, and he has some things coming up in the near future where we're all going to talk about it. But let's bring Dave Spinks on right now. Hello, Dave. Thank you for being part of the show this evening and being a guest.
Hey, thanks for having me, Emily, Greg. Nice to be here as always.
Yes. Nice to meet you. I get really excited because honestly, we live in a hub of paranormal stuff here in Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia. But very few times do I actually have people that I feel like close to me on the show. So I get really excited when I feel like you're close to Kentucky and you're homegrown.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you, Dave, for coming on the show this evening. Really appreciate it. I think you were on here. Was it a year ago?
Yeah, about a year ago.
Yeah, or so. So you are my Bigfoot cryptid guy that I go to. If I have any questions, if I actually get out in the woods and something happens, Dave Spinks is the man.
I'm just one of many.
So, Dave, for those that are watching that are not familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got maybe started in this and what you're all about nowadays?
Well, like most folks in this, I had an experience, seeking answers now, over 35 years worth. And, most folks get into this because they have a general interest in it, or they've had an experience themselves and they want answers. They have answers to what it was they saw, or what it was that happened to them. And it turns into a lifelong hobby going insane, so to speak. And, I started as a young man, 13 years old. Me and my grandpa, who's a Baptist minister, had an encounter that changed my life literally here in West Virginia. And I've been pursuing answers ever since. And I had several other experiences in my time, with my other grandpa, which is kind of weird. Both my grandpas I had paranormal, supernatural type experiences with. One was about my other grandpa, and one was with my dad's dad. So, and then being I grew up on military bases, and I saw things in the sky I couldn't explain. I knew, then I was in the Air Force, and I knew every plane that we had besides black projects, obviously. And I saw things that I knew. I was like, wait a minute, that's not right. There's something odd about that, or whatever the case. And had numerous experiences throughout my time. And as I got older, I started investigating on my own. People would call me, hey, I got this and that going on in my house. Can you come check it out? And the word kind of spreads. Hey, I got a friend that does that and this and that. So over those years, I met numerous other like-minded folks, and it just kind of snowballed from there. And then when I retired in 2011 from federal law enforcement, I went public with all what I do and my cases, started writing books about them, and so on and so forth. And there you have it.
That's awesome, Dave. Like, you are the book machine. You got tons of books. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Greg, do you have any kind of like follow up or anything you'd like to ask Dave?
Yeah, we probably a million things. So Dave, I've been into Bigfoot, Sasquatch since 1973, basically. Mm-hmm. When I saw, the Legend of Boggy Creek at the local theater down in Burbank, California. And that sparked that incredible interest to me. Mm-hmm. It's funny. I'm more of a paranormal guy, right? I'm actually more intimidated by Sasquatch than I am spirit demons.
Right.
That's whatever. Bring it on. But with Sasquatch, there's so many intangibles. I mean, okay, is it there or isn't it? But the point is, if it is, for me, and I know a lot of people call it a spirit animal and all this stuff. Okay, whatever. For me, it's a wild animal, and that's my opinion. And and my experiences have been being watched from several different positions. Me and my family members, my brother and my nephew and my son, literally knowing that we were being watched, and we don't know by what, but we had a suspicion. So anyway, what I want to ask you is your initial encounter, or I want to ask you, what was your best encounter? What was the craziest Bigfoot experience you've had specifically?
Well, that's what started me in this, honestly. And I've only had the one sighting, and that was in 1983 with my grandfather. Never saw another one since. I've heard things that I can't explain when I go out, trying to elicit responses and things of that nature. But the first time I had the encounter was the one that really changed my life. I've never seen another one. Like I said, came across some tracks in the woods I couldn't explain. Doesn't make sense for a human type track to be found out in the middle of nowhere. What would a person be doing walking barefoot in the woods 50 miles from nowhere? Doesn't make any sense. And I've come across tracks, weird tree, trees that look like they've been manipulated by something very intelligent in certain forms and different things like that. But other than the first encounter with Bigfoot, never saw another one. Of course, now I grew up in the woods hunting and fishing, and there's been many times where I felt as if I was being watched by something, heard strange noises.
Yeah.
The hair on the back of your neck will stand up,
Right.
On your arms, and the woods just go silent. The birds stop chirping, the squirrels stop making noise, and it just goes silent. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, this just feels off, something,
Yeah.
You're being watched by something. But other than seeing it the one time, that's it. And it was very frightening. It really scared the hell out of me, because this thing threw rocks this big around from across the river out into the middle of the river from the other side towards us. And you know that something that is that big and has that much power could kill a human with no problem.
Yeah, you know what? I know that story.
Yeah, that's the story. That's the one that I told on TV and wrote about in my book.
I know that story. So you didn't, was there did you physically see it? I mean, hey, look, there is nothing out there, not even a man, unless he has a freaking build a catapult, that's going to throw that rock. Okay. And that's one of the things that are one of the scariest things to me about that.
We didn't see the creature throw the rock at us. The rock just came. The first one hit out in the middle of the water. We didn't know what it was. We searched around because it made a humongous splash. We searched around in the water thinking maybe a big tree branch, because there are some trees that overhang the river there. And then the other side of the river is very treacherous. It's straight up and down. It's rocky, and people don't, rarely go to that side to fish. And because it's dangerous, there's loose rocks, you fall to your death. Well, as we got calmed down after the first rock hit the water, because we couldn't figure it out, just a few minutes later, another rock came, and this time we heard it hitting the tree limbs in an upward direction as it came through the trees, and you caught a glimpse of the rock out of your peripheral, and I saw it coming up, and then boom, then I knew, holy crap, the first thing was a big rock too that hit the water. And as the story goes, if you saw it, the creature started making this ungodly noise that just echoed down through the river canyon, shaking trees. My grandpa shot shotgun in that direction, but at that point we hadn't seen what did this yet. And he yells at me, "Get to the truck, boy." I go to the truck, and I'm cowering down in front of the truck, peeking around the front bumper.
Wow.
And watch the trees. This is going on for several minutes now. Then you see the trees start moving in the direction the creature's moving, and hadn't seen it still to this point. And then it came into a clearing, and I saw it from about the waist up. Ginormous thing. I mean, my grandpa was 6'4", big man. And it was double as wide as him. It had no neck, and its body was so big, the head actually looked disproportionately small. It had no neck, a little cone-shaped head covered in blackish brown fur. Never looked back at us, never saw no facial features, but it just was tearing the woods down, screaming and hollering. And then at that time, my grandpa came running, picked me up, threw me in the truck, and we got out of Dodge. And
like it couldn't have ripped the truck in half.
Oh yeah.
So how tall would you have estimated that being?
It had to be at least 7 feet tall, at least.
Yeah.
Of course, as a small child, I was 13. So as a small child, things are going to look bigger than they are to you. And in a situation like that, you kind of, it's pandemonium. So you don't really stop and think. But when you think back on it, the thing was massive. I mean, you could see the muscles in it. It was massive. Sure. And you've got that fight or flight thing going, and that the thing could kill you with no problem. So, I had nightmares about it for years. Didn't want to go back in the woods, and didn't go back in the woods for several years until I got older and started easing my way back in there. But that's really, at the same time I was terrified, I was really, I had all these questions, and I said, what was that thing? Because I had never heard of the Patterson-Gimlin film or Bigfoot or anything at this point in my life, but I did remember hearing the old timers talking about the woolly boogers and stuff, and I thought it was just stuff they call them woolly boogers here. Every county in West Virginia has a different name for Bigfoot. So,
yeah, right, exactly.
You got the blue demon, the woolly boogers, the wood boogers. I mean, you got all kind of name for them. So I was like, being terrified, but I still wanted to know what the heck was that I saw. Then, back in those days, we didn't have the internet and whatnot. So had to go to the local library and school library. And little by little, I started coming across magazine articles and different things, talking about these type of creatures all over the world. So then one day I saw In Search Of, and then they had it happened to have a Bigfoot episode. And I said, that's what I saw. That's what it is. And all, the light bulbs came on, and I said, I want to know more. So, and then I started watching that show religiously, and, started doing EVP work and everything else. And it just kind of snowballed there, after that, and that's where I'm at today.
There's a lot of talk of like for instance in Russia, what do they call their guy? Oh gosh, right off the tip of my tongue. Yeah, gosh, yeah.
Do I need to Google? Do I need to Google it right now?
Yeah, Google that. Would you? Russia's Bigfoot.
Let me Google
Russian Bigfoot.
Yeah,
Russian Bigfoot.
Big Funchki, Russian Big Funchki. And I tend to doubt that one.
Pull up. Hold on, let me type it again.
Russia is, most of Russia is vast wilderness.
Yeah.
It says Mongolian folklore. They call it the Amish.
Yes, the Amish. That's it.
Amish. Okay. But they also have parts where they call it the abdominal snowman.
Well, the rumor is that they caught one, and it was a female, and it was so human-like in a sense that the men started, sleeping, having sex. I'm not gonna say sleeping.
Yeah.
Romance. They were having romance with.
This needs to be G-rated.
And they're being very romantic. Anyway, and I guess there were some babies that were popped out. And there were a couple of, I did see video of a couple of strange looking guys, but you know what? I mean, look at me. So anyway, but
they did on that particular case. On that case, Greg, they actually went back years later and did DNA. They actually had enough hair and stuff from that female to do DNA, and they determined she was 100% human. She just had a condition. She just had a condition where she was very, very hairy.
She needed a razor.
Yeah, and they did her son's DNA and traced it back to her.
Okay.
So
I might have some friends.
But if you look at the Day at Love Pass incident, there's some weird stuff going on with that whole thing.
That was pretty interesting.
Yeah. And there, I don't know how genuine that picture was that they supposedly found in the camera.
It didn't look real good. It didn't look real good.
But who knows with Russia, they keep stuff under their hat. They don't share a lot of this stuff with the outside world, so to speak. So
yeah.
Well, I do. Cheryl Ann Fletcher, she's a good friend of mine, and she's actually going to be a guest on the show in a couple weeks too. But she has, we're talking about the appearance. How about the smell? Is there a distinct smell? Like what's the smell?
Fortunately, I didn't get to smell it because it was far enough away for me. But Florida calls it the skunk ape for a reason, because it stinks, like really, really bad body odor. And Native Americans will tell you that too. It goes back in their legends for thousands of years. That's what I find very compelling. That's very important to another reason why I do what I do. Native American, almost every single Native American tribe has a similar type creature known as Bigfoot. Goes by many different names. The men of the woods, the protectors of the woods. And there's stories of Native American tribes warring with these creatures, and a truce was made, and basically it was like, we stay over here in our spot and you stay over there in your spot. And they would mark their territory with, sticking trees upside down in the ground and all kinds of stuff. And they still find these weird tree formations in the woods to this day. So,
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say to Cheryl that, I just want you to know that Gwen is insulted by that last question. Okay.
Gwen needs a wax job.
Gwen is insulted that you would suggest that, they smell bad. Just want to say.
They don't call it the skunk ape for no reason.
Hold on. I'm just going to tell you all, one of my favorite smells is skunk. Like, I love a good dead skunk. Like, wow. I know when it's fresh. And if it's so fresh, there's sometimes in my car, I'll turn around and go back just to smell it again.
That's marijuana you're smelling. That's marijuana you're smelling.
That might be too. It's okay. I like that smell too. So, wow, that's really interesting. And then we had somebody here, Susan Lopez, said mink has been called the mink. Sasquatch mink.
Wow,
never heard that.
I'll look for that one.
Yeti
coat. If it's Sasquatch, I want a mink coat.
Yeah, I've never heard that term used for Bigfoot.
I don't know. I've been getting into aliens. a lot, and reptilians. And Dave,
Oh, no.
we spoke, know that. So there is a lot of talk about Bigfoot being associated as an alien, or he always appears when we have these alien UFO sightings. Do you believe in that? Do you link Bigfoot and aliens together at all, or?
Well, that's an interesting question, because here's the thing: as an investigator, you can't rule out anything, and none of us has the absolute answer in this, because there's a number of reasons why. We have no body that we know of publicly to study. We don't know what these things are. A lot of people have the opinion that they're some sort of interdimensional creature, or ET. A lot of people think that they're just a long extinct ape species that was thought to be extinct, but they're really not. There's a few of them left. Some people even go, if you want to go farther outside the box, some people say they could be a ghost of a long extinct ape species, and what you're doing is seeing a ghost of a Bigfoot, of a large ape. So you can really run the gambit when it comes to these creatures, because we just don't know enough. And as an investigator, there's a lot of guys that are going back into old cases, and they're finding that when there was a rash of Bigfoot sightings in a particular area, there was also a rash of unexplained lights in the sky, or vice versa. So, as an investigator, you got to take a look of every aspect of these cases, just, because you wouldn't be doing yourself a disservice if you didn't look at it from many different angles. So there's a lot of stories out there from hunters. They saw a Bigfoot trouncing up in front of them, like, however many yards, and they started following the creature. Creature goes behind some brush, and they get to that point where they saw it disappear, and the foot tracks stop, and the Bigfoot is nowhere to be found. So where did it go? Was it a ghost that you saw, or was it an ET that got beamed up? Who knows? Or it went through a doorway. Maybe it's interdimensional. So, we just don't know enough yet to actually say, hey, I know for sure what this thing is.
Yeah, there is a lot of different roads you can travel when it comes to Bigfoot, and yeah, me too. I'm not necessarily gonna poo any of them, but I will say I believe Bigfoot poo-poos in the woods and not in a spaceship. Okay.
I know what I saw was a living and breathing flesh creature.
Right.
Now, where it came from, I have no idea what it was doing there. I got the sensation that it was pissed we were there catching a bunch of fish, and it didn't want us there.
Yeah, it didn't want you to grab their fish.
Right. So that's how I felt about it. But, that's just based off my own, we are all basing what we think or our opinions are off of our own experiences. So that's all we can do.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I'm not a Bigfoot researcher. It takes a lot for me to go out in the woods like that anyway. But so I know here recently in the state of Kentucky that they found DNA in the woods that was linked to gorillas or what, monkeys and things like that. So in speaking of feces, if we find all these Bigfoot prints in the dirt, wouldn't you think we would have found some kind of feces or urine? I mean, I know urine probably has a smell to it too, but wouldn't you think that we'd have something along those lines as of now too, along with the footprint markings?
Well, you would think we would by now, but think about it this way. So, like I told you guys, I grew up in the woods my whole life. Just take West Virginia, for example. We have a huge black bear population here in West Virginia. I've never, ever seen a black bear carcass in the woods, and we have hundreds of thousands of them. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, so with that being said, things that die in the woods do not last long. They get eaten by many different types of creatures. They decompose very quickly, and the bones and whatnot are even consumed by creatures because they want that calcium. Squirrels eat it. All kinds of animals eat the bones and everything. Now, if you go a little bit further with that, if Bigfoot is an intelligent humanoid type creature, like most of us think it is, who's to say they don't bury their dead? I mean, we just don't know. So, of course, people are always taking samples of scat they find in the wood, trying to get it analyzed to see if it is not human and what kind of scat it is around known sighting areas and whatnot. And then also you have to take into account that all over this country, there's been many times when people have let loose domesticated chimpanzees,
Right.
other animals they have, or they've escaped from zoos and things. So, it's definitely plausible that an ape, something in one of the ape species, got loose, died in the woods, and they found that DNA in soil. And they've got ways to take DNA right out of the water now in streams and everything else. So it's really fascinating. I think the field's moving forward in the scientific aspect, and hopefully one day someone will find that smoking gun.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, honestly, I was excited, foolishly, but I was excited a few years back when the one dude had apparently shot one and had it in the cooler. Okay.
Oh yeah, had it under ice.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
And of course, it turns out to be a stupid
yeah.
suit.
And that ruins it for the people that are really
it's terrible.
putting it in a lot of time and effort in this stuff.
But let me ask you your opinion of Todd Standing, because Les Stroud, it at least gave him enough potential credibility to take him along on his Bigfoot Survivor Bigfoot series. Are you familiar with Todd Standing?
Yeah, I know. I don't know him personally, but I mean, I don't like to make judgments about people because especially if I don't know them and have never worked with them, all I can do is base it off what other people say and what I've seen. So,
I guess my question is, have you seen his evidence? Because some of it's pretty interesting.
Some's interesting and some's not so interesting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, take it with a grain of salt, I guess, until we have someone or a scientific proof saying this is the missing link between man and ape, or this is this previously unknown creature, then, it's still just a story, basically. So, I mean, we have to remain true to what we're doing and try to get that professional scientific evidence of some sort, saying, hey, we got a real piece of evidence here, whether it's a body, whether it's DNA, whether it's a tooth, whatever, and here's an interesting thing that a lot of people don't talk about much, but there's been giant skeletons found all over this country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's so bizarre to me that, and a lot of them were found in the early 1900s, and they're still being found here and there today, but almost immediately after one of these giant skeletons were found, the Smithsonian or government agents would swoop in and these skeletons would disappear. Now, some of these skeletons were 8, 9, 10, 12 feet tall, and they were examined by professionals at the time that knew the difference between a normal sized human and a skeleton of this size. And a lot of these things were found in burial mounds, in Native American burial mounds, and some had double rows of teeth. Now, if you follow the Bible in any way, they talk about the Nephilim. Yeah, right. So
David and Goliath.
Are Bigfoot some sort of offspring from the Nephilim, possibly? I mean, you could go many ways with this stuff. So,
yeah, you could.
I mean, what were these giants? And the Bible talks about giants, and they are nasty, vile creatures. So maybe there's a connection there. Maybe there's not. Who knows?
Yeah, but I think too, over history and everything, we used to be a larger frame people, and then we also lived a lot longer than what we do. I think over time, as being like men and women both have developed in shorter stature, and we don't live as long too.
Right.
So,
Well,
I think it's opposite of that.
Yeah.
Do you really?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
That's
for
interesting
instance,
to know about that. But Greg, go ahead. I'm sorry. I want to know about that.
For instance, Noah was over 500 years old, and and animals grew bigger.
Mm-hmm.
People grew bigger, and here's why.
And then it declined, and then it's going back now. It's weird.
You got to understand, there was a firmament over the earth. We talked about that with the flat Earth guy. But there's a firmament over the earth, and that firmament was what was used to basically bring that flood, because the firmament was full of water. And so that's where that rain came from. And after the flood, that firmament was gone. And now you had the direct sunlight. And so things at that point started dying quite a bit faster than they had before. And after that, you had people that lived into the hundreds, okay? But you didn't have anybody that lived into the several hundreds like they had back then. And I think the same thing goes with the creatures. And, you had your dinosaurs or whatever. It's a similar situation. They grew to monstrous sizes because they lived forever. It's, hundreds and hundreds of years. And so after they were squashed out,
squashed out, right?
Squashed out. After that happened, I mean, then there's no longer a firmament, and those things didn't grow as big anymore. And plus, some of them were too big to take necessarily, unless they brought babies onto them.
Not to mention the food was much better for you then.
Well, I'll just say this, since we're talking about Noah, and he wrote most of the Old Testament there, the beginnings, any chapters anyway. But we were talking about Nephilim, the giants, and in Scripture it said that those creatures were here before the flood, and then when the flood happened, Noah says that they're also here afterwards. So they've continued. They continued. Not as many, but they still continued. So that bloodline of that entity or the giants of the land continued on. And that's where you get David and Goliath and all that. I got other stuff in the Sons of God. But we do, Will Martinez is watching. I'm sorry. Does David believe in tree knocking to communicate Sasquatch? Okay, sorry. Will Martinez, my old co-host, hopefully maybe he'll be, no offense to you, Greg. Will. But yeah, Will's watching tonight. That's a good question. We also have another question I want to get to. Susan asked. So Will, I'm bringing this up. I got really stupid. Thank you for watching. So tree knocking to communicate with Sasquatch. Is that like Morse code?
Well, there's different theories on it. You have to go by what people in the early years of Bigfoot research said they experienced. So yeah, you want to try different things to try to communicate with these creatures. Some people say they've heard them speaking like some form of broken English, babbling and chitter chattering and different things. So, and then it's just like when you're out hunting, we use game calls to call in game. So if this is a smart creature, you're trying to make communication with them, right? So you're hunting them. You want to get some sort of proof. You want to get a callback, a knockback. Some people report having seen them clacking rocks or heard like a clacking of rocks together. So yeah, you obviously, if you're trying to find evidence of these creatures, you want to try different methods of communicating with them.
Yeah, and I think there has been a little bit of success with that, and the question is, are people hearing an echo, or are they? Could it be somebody else in the distant messing with them, or could it be literally Sasquatch communicating?
Well, you can rule out an echo pretty easily. So if you knock 3 times and you get 2 knocks back, it's not an echo.
Yeah.
So that's pretty easily to rule out.
Susan Lopez, she's watching. So and she asked this question: what do you think about people who want to kill a Bigfoot to give it to science?
No, I would not kill any creature unless I'm, number one, if I'm hunting, I'm going to eat it, or it's trying to kill me. Why would you do that? And there's been many a hunter. How legitimate their stories are, I don't know, but many a hunter claimed to have put the scope on a Bigfoot and could not pull the trigger because they said they looked too human-like and they knew they were doing something very bad. So for me personally,
I would feel like it's an endangered species. Like, wouldn't they get in trouble for that? Wouldn't they get in trouble?
Well, some states have enacted laws that it's against the law to kill a Bigfoot. So that, that's true. That's very bizarre if you think about it. Why would they enact a law on a creature that doesn't supposedly exist?
Now there are stories, back, like you said, back in the early 1900s where trappers were out, and maybe there was even a group of 10 trappers that apparently were confronted by what they said was a 12-foot Sasquatch, and it attacked their camp and killed most of them. You've probably heard this story.
Yeah, I heard that.
And before they finally, I guess, had brought it down to some degree, so that aspect of it is like what would have caused it to react that way to a camp. What irritated them like that? Could it have been the similar situation to what you had? Get away from my fish, get away from my deer, or whatever it is that they were hunting. And yeah, I guess it did considerable damage. But again, there you go. You would think that a bunch of trappers, any trappers that lived, would have skinned the thing and brought it, but that was a situation where they were forced to shoot, as opposed to not. So a story, campfire story. Who knows the legitimacy of it, but it was a good story.
Well, a very famous person from Kentucky claimed to have shot a Bigfoot. You know who that is, Emily?
No, Ray Cyrus.
No, Daniel Boone.
Yeah.
I go to Billy Ray. That's my famous people in my era. But
there's a story of Daniel Boone said that he shot a wild hairy man in the woods. If you can look it up. Yeah,
I haven't heard that. I want to find that.
Well, Dave, because we got about 20 minutes left. I knew this was going to go by fast because I also want to talk about Willow's Weep and some paranormal stuff that you're involved in too, other side of Bigfoot. But you have a lot of books actually, and they're available on Amazon. You talk a little bit, and here's the West Virginia Bigfoot. Willow's Weep is the house I want to talk about that you have. I want to investigate it, and then UFOs. So everybody, please look him up here. I can put the link up eventually here. You did a book with Rosemary Ellen Gilly.
Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
You did? I didn't know that.
Well, she wrote the foreword for my book. Yeah.
That's awesome. Look at it. And then you are, and here's David Weatherly's coming in here. And that's what I want to talk to you first. And we'll go to Willow's Weep. But you and David Weatherly are putting a network together, correct? Or
well, no. It's me and a friend of mine named Billy Lewis. It's called Scare Network. Weatherly's one of the people that are in some of the investigations with me. He's really close friend of mine. We've written and investigated together for numerous years now. He's someone I brought in to do some of the investigations for the Scare Network, and same with Sean Austin. You've seen him on TV as well, and David and others. There'll be many others involved in it. And what we're trying to do is we're showing, we want to show TV quality investigations on our network, except for there's no dramatization, there's no BS going on. What you might see some recreations of things that really happen, so folks can get a visual of what someone's experience, what they went through on some of them. But for the most part, it's just real deal investigating and whatnot. So, TV's not what I do this for. I do this because I have a passion for it, and I really, and to me, it's three of man's greatest questions. What happens to us when we die? Are we alone in the universe? And are there unknown creatures walking among us? And something we didn't really touch on the cryptids before we go into the next thing is, they find new species weekly on this planet. And it wasn't very long ago, in 2017 in Sumatra, they found a brand new species of orangutan that was never previously known.
Yeah.
The giant squid was thought to not exist. They found the Japanese fishermen caught a live specimen. Absolutely. I mean, they are finding, the ocean is just a tiny bit explored. So, there's new creatures that are undiscovered. I just got an article the other day that they found a brand new species of spider that's closely related to tarantulas at the right outside the San Diego Zoo that is poisonous. It's brand new, never heard of. And
sorry,
there you
Spinks,
go.
I didn't mean. Hold on, I didn't mean to hit the play on that.
That's
you
all
heard
right.
that. Well,
Yeah,
I want to do a teaser real quick. Well, you know, I've messaged you about mermaids. I'm getting into mermaids and stuff. So you're talking about all this water. There is a teaser on the Scare Network TV with mermaids, but I'd like to play this one, the Flatwoods Monster, because this is a teaser that's going to be on the Scare Network when this is all finished. So
it's actually the full episode is up now.
Awesome. And so this is scarenetwork.tv. The website here, that's the link. Please go to it, sign up for it. There's going to be so many good things coming up on the Scare Network, and it's from really great people that's done tons of amazing research that I highly respect in all fields of what we research, things paranormal, cryptids, Bigfoot, all that stuff. But I want to play this teaser of the Flatwoods Monster real quick. Here we go.
September 12, 1952, at approximately 7:15 p.m.
It froze.
Fred and Eddie May and their friend Tommy Heyer were playing
football
at the local school.
It's freezing.
When all three of them observed a large fiery ball come down, landing in the field above their house.
As they're walking up this trail, they notice a red pulsating light at the top of the hill. As they're fixated on this light at the top of the hill, and then they notice some movement from their left coming from the woods. They turn their one flashlight toward it to see what it might be. And standing in their light was this 10-foot tall figure.
Huh. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the time. That's just a little teaser for that episode. And you know, some are much shorter than others. You know, we do a section kind of like we call local legends, and then we do full-blown documentary investigations and on all topics. So got a lot of stuff that's in post-production right now for that channel, and a lot of new up-and-coming things.
Mermaids is up and coming. I don't know if I should play that or not, but that's what I'm into. I never, after doing all this stuff all these years, and Greg, have you ever heard anybody sit and actually talk about the research of mermaids and talk about these aqua people? I haven't.
Well, yeah, there's been some silly stuff out there trying to people trying to came up with some fake stuff on mermaids. You saw those, right? And, And you always have something that washes up on the beach, and then you got Alaska. But as far as I know, there's really nothing on mermaids. But I'm hoping, hey, maybe Dave has some more insight on that.
Well, we did a piece on Scare Network about mermaids, and my buddy David Weatherly did that episode, and what we did with that was we just retold a famous story on the down in North Carolina on the Cape Fear River. This man claimed to have had an experience with a mermaid on the river. Later, a pub was built there, and it was named after that whole experience. So it's a local legend, and that's what we talk about. We like to recap those things and keep those folklore stories alive because it's important. It's part of history. I mean, this man was affected.
Were said to be.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know why when I hit big screen, it just automatically plays, and I had it on pause. So this is the mermaid, Cape Fear mermaid, and this has actually got this teaser right here, Spinks, was what got me really wanting to look more into the mermaid.
That's our job.
Yeah, aqua people. So this is awesome. So here we'll play this teaser real quick for the Cape Fear mermaid.
The mermaids of old were said to be sirens who would lure sailors to their death with a siren song, an intriguing voice that pulled at the individuals, causing them to leap into the ocean, seeking love or seeking the passion of the mermaids, only to be plunged or perhaps pulled down to their deaths. Many stories exist of sailors being lost to these intriguing creatures. Mermaid stories have stayed with us throughout the ages. Are there mermaids? Are there some strange creatures that are part human, part fish?
I'll be interested in watching that.
Yeah, it's just, it's keeping these stories alive and keeping people thinking. Because if you have an open mind and you take 5 minutes of your day and go outside and look at the stars, you never know what you'll see. You know, we take that personal. That's we consider that this kind of thing our job, because we don't want people to be always concentrating on their 9 to 5 and the kids. We want people to still remain open-minded and take the time to view their surroundings, because you never know what you might see. To me, that's very important, you know, and it's also part of history, part of folklore, and everything else. So that's why we want to present what we're doing on Scare Network in that aspect.
I'm just going to throw this out here. If you investigate mermaids, you have any, contact me, please. I need to talk to somebody about this.
Well, there's a lot of, and David talks about, he touches it in that episode. You know, these stories have been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. So people, and there's old accounts going in captain's logs of mermaids and the kraken, you know, these giant squids would attack the boats and grab sailors to drag them to their death. So they saw something, you know, they couldn't explain, and maybe it was a mermaid, maybe it wasn't. We don't know. Maybe it was an alien. You know, who knows?
You don't know. What is it? We only know like 5% of research when it deals with the ocean waters, right? Mm-hmm. Is it 5? It's like really a small amount number. Imagine that ocean out there.
90-something% hasn't been explored or something like that to that effect. Yeah.
Look, I didn't throw the guy overboard. It was a giant squid that reached up and grabbed. I promise you. So you know, you know, Dave, I just want to say that, you know, I'm a paranormal guy. I recently talked to the very dead Estelle Getty from Golden Girls, and literally had a conversation with her through
that's awesome.
Through one of Katie Stafford's devices, and I just want to say but I love the concept of all these other cryptids. It's all really, really fun for me. I view the paranormal scientifically, but everything else is fun, and I love it. And it's guys.
It's also scary.
It is scary. You know, guys like you, okay, that doing this research and stuff that I very much appreciate, okay, because I get a lot of value out of it, and I learn a lot about these various things from people just like you.
I appreciate that.
I want to throw that out there.
I admire Dave Spinks and Ken Gerhard. Those are my two people I go to. Any cryptid, any, and then paranormal with you, Dave. But especially any cryptid, because I thought I experienced my first cryptid ever on an investigation in Hazard, Kentucky in October, and like 2 of us seen it. But I reached out to Ken over that. I think it was a white fox, which albino, which I've never seen before, but it spooked us, and it was close to a graveyard, and there's the legend of that white dog. I think it was the white dog. That lady, shoot, she passed away. I just mentioned her name. She wrote your
Rosemary.
Rosemary. We talked about it in one of her books, and it was like 20 yards from the graveyard and things. And I was really thinking but he sent me some pictures of an albino fox, and I really think that's what I saw. It was an albino fox. But
yeah, you have to debunk, you know, I mean, we have to get any legitimacy, you have to be able to debunk things in all aspects of these fields, whether it's cryptids, UFOs, or hauntings. You have to be able to try to debunk anything and everything. If you can't debunk it, then only then can you say it's possibly paranormal or supernatural in nature. So, but at the same time, you know, some of these local legends and these folklore tales, we love them because they're part of history, and we got to keep it going, you know.
Well, what I want to see about keeping going, since we're talking about paranormal a little bit here, is I want to share my screen real quick. But you own a home that is super crazy.
Yeah.
And you have a book, Willows Weep, with that. And I think a lot of people that are into paranormal investigating has probably investigated this house. Can you tell us a little bit? Because it's been on History Channel. Was it on Travel Channel too? Or
no, just on History. It was the very first episode of Unexplained with William Shatner. And it was just like a 25-minute, 26-minute segment. But you know, with these shows, they only don't even scratch the surface on these locations a lot of times. But the house is built in 1890. Someone owned it before me. They bought it for their son and to help him get a start in life, somewhere cheap that they could fix up. Almost immediately after they bought it, things started happening, according to the former owner. So much, in fact, that they reached out to paranormal teams to try to come in and help them figure out what was going on. That's how I heard about it. That's how I first became, how I first came to investigate it. Investigated it numerous times. Got anything under the sun you can imagine: EVPs, disembodied voices, unexplained noises, going on. Battery drain, pretty much everything you look for in a haunting type scenario, other than having seeing a spirit come and sit down next to you and having a conversation with you. Other teams that I trust and I value their word and their evidence showed me very compelling evidence that they captured in the house over the years. And I became friends with the former owner because I had been there several times. Out of the blue, one day she called me up, said, "Dave, I'm done with this house. It's tried to kill me and my husband twice now. Do you want it?" And I said, "What do you mean, do I want it?" She goes, "I want, there's only a couple people I trust to have this place because it's so negative and you know what to do with it." And I said, "Let me think about it." And we came to terms and I ended up buying it because I said, what better of a place could someone have, such as myself, doing what I do? I could have my own paranormal lab and investigate it anytime. And that's what I ended up doing with it. And we've caught some very, very just phenomenal evidence out of this place. There's been numerous deaths in the house over the years. Some I can't confirm, but others I can. There's much more work to be done at this house. There was a rumored from the former owner that a child's arm bone was found under the house. The man that found it was working for her, checking the pipes. When he found the bone, he looked at it and he claims that he was attacked so severely in a sexual nature that he was pinned to the floor in the crawl space, could not move. When he got out of there, he ran to her, gave her the bone, and said, "I'm never going under that effing house again." She took it to the doctor, local country doctor there, because it's a teeny little town. There's one flashing light in the town. He said it was definitely a human bone of a young child. And
wow.
So he called, supposedly, this is all hearsay. I haven't confirmed all this yet, but he called the local sheriff. He told the sheriff what he thought it was, and sheriff told her just either put it back or get rid of it, which I found very odd because normally it'd be a full-blown investigation done under the house. But taking the doctor's advice, apparently that it could have been Native American and very old bone, we don't know. But there's a story that goes along with that could be connected, that sometime in the 40s or 50s, this woman moved in. She had been married 3 different times. All of her husbands died of mysterious circumstances. They thought that she may have been a Black Widow type woman, marry these guys, kill them off, and get the insurance and move to the next town. But she had around a 5-year-old daughter and an older teenage boy, maybe 19, 20. One day, the little girl just came up missing. Nobody knew what happened to her. And then I think a short time later, maybe a year, the young man was supposedly found hanging in the house, that he either was hung or he hung himself. So if you kind of think from an investigator standpoint, is that related to she killed a little girl for whatever reason, or the brother did it? Then he felt remorse or guilt, hung himself in the house, and they had buried the young girl under the house. Another strange aspect about the house. I mean, we could spend 2 or 3 shows talking about this house. There's so much stuff.
Yeah.
Another crazy, weird aspect of the house. So it's built in the shape of a cross, almost a perfect cross. There was once 4 entrances and exits to the house, and the doors, those 4 entrances and exits, are in the corners of where, like if you picture a cross in your mind, right? Mm-hmm. In those corners of the arms to cross are where there was 4 doors to come in and out of the house. Above each one of those doors, there's a perfect triangle. That's a Mason sign.
Mason.
Okay. There's all kinds of Masonic symbology in the house. it was confirmed to me by a 32nd or 33rd degree Mason that he's like, dude, do you know how much Masonic symbology is in this house? He said, and I'll tell you another thing, it's turned the wrong manner, so a non-Mason would not recognize it.
Yeah.
So you've got all that going on with it. When Brenda, the former owner, was remodeling it with her son, someone had put laminate floor over the original floor, and it was hooved up for moisture, so they were scraping it out. And in one corner of the house, they found a weird book, a pamphlet, more or less, not really a book, but a pamphlet that was supposedly put out by this Church of God. But what's very just unnerving about it is it has an upside down pentagram on fire on the front of it, and it says, "Is the spirit world real?" Now, when you flip through this pamphlet, it talks about how to summon demons, necromancy, all kinds of things that no Christian organization I've ever heard of would put out a pamphlet talking about these things like this. So I did a little research on it. The pamphlet was put out in 1985. You can still find it online today. But to me, everything that I've come to find, that this is an organization masquerading as a Christian organization, and it's really some sort of cult. So it's very weird that was found buried between the new floor and the old floor. And then
crazy.
Another weird thing is directly under the center of the house, when you crawl down in there, and this crawl space is little, I have to belly crawl when I go down there. Right in the center of the house, there's an actual fire pit dug, and it's got limestone rock, just like you would see at a campfire, out in the woods if you're camping. And there's ashes in it. Someone was doing some sort of spell work or something, or they built the house directly on top of this site.
So Dave, I want to hit you with a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there poltergeist activity in that house?
Oh yeah, tons of it. Okay. If you go to my YouTube page, Real Supernatural, and you scroll down and you find, you'll see a video called Shadow Man Captured. We captured something there and this is in broad daylight by pure happenstance when I'm filming a documentary there. And we had put a GoPro up on one of the doors just for a different angle. And we had packed up for the day after we did interview type situations. And there's only 3 of us there. We had packed our gear up, and then my film guy was like, "Oh crap, I forgot the GoPro." So he just ran back in the house, grabbed it, locked the door, and we left. A month later, he calls me freaking out, says, "Dude, I just sent you a file, emailed you a file. I don't know if I can ever go back in that house again." And what he sent me was a video clip of this shadow figure captured in the house by pure happenstance, not during an investigation, not on purpose, nothing. And, it is just a full-blown shadow figure like you've never seen. And at the same time, there's unexplained noises going on in the house, like footsteps, dragging sounds. And boom, you see this full-blown shadow figure walk in the house. And nobody was outside the house. And we were all in the back. There was no one around the house, no one inside the house. And what's really weird is the windows are about maybe belly button high to me. I'm 6 foot tall. So if it would have been a person outside the house creating a shadow, you would have only seen the shadow from like the waist up, right? Well, this is inside the house. You can see the feet to the head and the whole 9 yards.
Awesome.
So it's pretty compelling. Go check it out.
I want to go. Cheryl and
that's just scratching the surface. That's just scratching the surface of the house. Read the book.
Would you let 2 girls stay the weekend there? I will get a cot. I will bunk up right in the middle of that sucker.
There's no power in the house. There's no working bathroom.
Is there a gas station nearby?
About a mile away, yeah.
Oh, that's not bad. So we've gone over a little bit. That's okay, because Dave, you have so much stuff going on, and you're very talented, and I admire you greatly in the field of studies that you do. You're one of the true people that is me going in and trying. If I needed advice on anything, you're one of the people I go to on that. So
I appreciate that. I put my pants on like anyone else, man.
Yeah,
we're all seeking the same answers here.
I'm
only wearing a shirt right now, by the way.
What is it?
I'm only wearing a shirt right now, by the way. So.
Hey, I know a lot of people that do the podcast in their drawers, man.
Hey, I was in a court hearing the attorney forgot to turn off his camera, and he stood up and he only had boxer shorts on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
video court hearing.
Yeah, it was a video court hearing, but absolutely. It's Cheryl Ann Fletcher. She's a psychic medium. She's been on some TV shows too. She's a good friend of mine. Cheryl, come this way. She's out west. Come east. Let's do this. It's a girls' weekend. Go to the Weep there. But Dave, real quick, I have been posting and putting your links up here on Facebook, and the link to his YouTube page is in the description. So click on that, go subscribe to his channel. But really quickly, all the ways that people can contact you, find you.
Just check out my website. I think you post www.davespinks.paranormalinvestigator.com. I do have a brand new book coming out real soon. This in May, coming out this month, about a case I spent a lot of time in, and it affected me very negatively, and to the point where I had to go get blessed and cleansed, and I had some major health problems, and it just affected my whole life in a negative manner. So I often tell people this stuff can be dangerous, and you know, if you want a real true account of someone who experienced that firsthand, check out my new book. It's called Wicked 46. And it'll be out soon, and I'm going to be taking pre-sales so people can get it ordered and be the first ones to receive it. And I'll post that in a week or two on my Facebook pages and on my website and whatnot.
Well, we will need to have you back on the show after that book comes out too, because I know that it's the place that we talked about one time, right? The house. Yeah, it's super creepy. So, I'll be excited.
And there's some very big names associated with this house over the years too. So, I think people will be surprised.
Awesome.
Well, Dave, thank you so much for being a guest tonight.
Everybody.
My pleasure.
And everybody, thank you for always watching here on Friday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Manifest Network. Next week is our last Friday night, and we're going to have psychic lawyer Mark Anthony on. He may actually even do a couple free readings, so please make sure you hit interested or going to get your reminders on that event. And we'll be back here next week at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Mark Anthony, the psychic lawyer. And Dave Spinks, thank you so much. That's his website up. You can also follow him.
Anytime, guys.
Thank you all. Love you all. Have a good weekend. See you next time.
Have a good night, guys.